This is David Dubal, and today I have as my guests William Daghlian and Sonia Rubinsky. Now, I never met Mr. Daghlian, but I know Sonia Rubinsky and admire her piano playing, and she was telling me recently that there's a wonderful Brazilian pianist, absolutely wonderful, that I should hear. And Sonia brought me the recordings. And it so happens that William Daghlian is the producer of these recordings of this very interesting Brazilian pianist. And, well, I can't really pronounce her name, but perhaps, William, you would do it for me.
Yes, it's Menininha Lobo.
Menininha Lobo.
Yes. It's not her real name. Her real name is Guilhermina de Freitas Lobo. But she was born very tiny, premature. And she was the youngest of the family. And they called her Menininha, which in Portuguese means little girl. Mm-hmm. And the nickname stuck. And her, yes, and she developed a career with the name of Menininha Lobo.
And as she developed in life and her career, did she stay a little girl? Was she always small?
Yes, she's very, very tiny, frail, and today she's 80. And but what is interesting about her is that she remains a little girl from the turn of the century.
Really?
Yes, she's very much like that as a personality. Just lovely, and.
Well, she sounds wonderful. I'd love to have Sonia read a little bit from your notes when you produced the first recording. I know that you brought Menininha Lobo up to New York to do this, and we'll talk about her. We'll try in this program to paint some portrait of this woman who never had the repute that Novaes had, another Brazilian pianist, or even Magda Taliaferro.
Yes, they are very close friends. Novaes and Lobo were very close friends. Even the first piece of music that Lobo learned was given by Novaes,
really?
Who was a friend of the family.
So obviously they studied with the same teacher, and yes. I have a feeling that Sonia will give us that information as she reads these notes.
Yes, I'm going to start here. Arthur Rubinstein, in his memoirs, recalls that in São Paulo during World War I, he met two brilliant pianists, Antonieta Rudi, 1885 to 1974, and Guilmar Novaes, 1895 to 1979, and that both were pupils of Luigi Chiafarelli, 1856 to 1923, a great piano teacher whose fame attracted even pupils from abroad, and who was considered the equal of Isidore Philippe or Busoni. Menininha Lobo did not come from abroad, but from nearby Campinas to study with the important master. Chiafarelli called her the pupil of my musical eyes.
Well, that brings up the provocative question that I have, and why did we never hear of Chiafarelli if Rubinstein said he was the equal in fame of Isidore Philippe or Busoni? Tell me about this man who, William, he's like, in a sense, the father of
the whole school of piano playing. Yes. He was a very important piano teacher, Italian piano teacher, that went to Brazil in the middle of the 19th century, and he formed this school there. And he was the first teacher to have his pupils perform all the Beethoven sonatas in Brazil. There is a famous Brazilian pianist, Alice Serva. She played all the Beethoven sonatas in the 19th century. In São Paulo.
So she was the first to do it.
She was the first
one,
before Novaes, before Rudi. She was the first one.
As Viana da Mata was the first to do it in Lisbon.
Portugal, yes. And also marvelous pianist, Viana da Mata. Yes. But so Alice Serva, there are no recordings left of her. And it seems that there is some recording of Chiafarelli, of some Mozart, but I have never heard it. I've heard of it, and supposedly very beautiful.
Yeah, these things are so tantalizing because we're trying to dig here at the connections and the roots of piano playing, which is now 8 generations since Clementi, the father, began it all.
Yes.
So, how it all moves is so fascinating. How an Italian musician born in 1856 goes to Brazil, and all of a sudden, he has a pupil called Lobo, and she's the apple of my musical eyes. Did Menininha Lobo ever talk about Luigi Giaffarelli?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What?
She was very afraid of him.
Ah.
What she says is that she was very frightened of him. She came from Campinas every week for her lesson with the train, and her father would put her in the train in Campinas, and there was a driver that would wait for her in São Paulo and drive her to Chiafarelli's house. And she would take the lesson. She was always very quiet and afraid of what he was going to think. But he liked her very much. What he said about her is very lovely. It was written in a card. I've seen the card.
The pupil of my musical eyes.
Yes.
Yes, that is charming.
Yes.
How was there a method, let's say? Was there something that he left her pianistically that she passes on, or that she, as you're a pianist, William, that he might have helped her with?
I think that it's more a way of life than any other thing, because you are a pianist yourself, and you know that every teacher talks about relaxation, talks about this and that, but it's how you talk about it at the right moment that is important. And it's a way of life, a relaxed way of life, love of music.
Yes.
And this is what you hear in her playing. It's the love of music. It's just total involvement with music. She never cared about being famous or having a big career. Just loved music, and you hear it that way.
Well, you've really just made an introduction to our first piece, because you really have to love Fauré to really make him happen.
Yes.
And we're going to hear Menininha Lobo in the Nocturne number 4 of Gabriel Fauré. You have just heard the beautiful Nocturne Number 4 by Fauré and the artist Menininha Lobo. My guests today are Sonia Rubinsky, a wonderful pianist, and William Daghlian, who is a wonderful pianist and teacher. And indeed, he teaches privately, and he teaches at the Aaron Copland School of Music, and he certainly is the producer of these extraordinary albums. Very nice to have both of you.
Thank you.
Sonia, why don't you go on with William's notes? Because we
Fine.
want to know more about her.
Okay. Granddaughter of the composer Elias Lobo and the youngest of 9 children, Guilhermina de Freitas Lobo was born September 9, 1904 in Campinas. Weighing only 3 pounds at birth, she remained tiny and frail and was nicknamed Menininha, which in Portuguese means little girl.
Oh.
She started her piano studies with her sister Ana Smeria and then studied with Alfredo Oswald, son of the composer Henrique Oswald, Luigi Chiafarelli and his assistants Antonieta Rudi and Maria Edu Tapajós. Suffering from cramps in her right arm, she went to Germany for treatment and there studied with Frau Posner, a Schnabel assistant who had overcome the same problem. Upon her return to Brazil, she studied with Magda Talhaferro.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to know that the way I remember, I'm from the same city, Campinas, myself.
And where is it, Sonia?
It's an hour from São Paulo. An
Uh-huh.
hour's drive from São
Small
Paulo.
town?
No,
It's a
a large
big
city, a million
industrial.
people.
Yeah.
A
big
million people?
Yes.
Mhm.
It's an industrial city.
Yeah.
Do you miss it?
Not really. Yes and no.
Sure.
And then I remember I always heard about Menininha Lobo. I knew of her. It was like a legend,
Uh-huh.
a living legend, but she never played in public. And
Well, that's the way to become a legend. You know?
Yes.
That's been my path. Yeah, I'm a legend in my own mind.
So it was, and then after meeting her in Brazil and then hearing her records and meeting her in New York, it was remarkable that seeing her, I could never imagine she could play.
Mhm.
Because she's so tiny and frail. And
She remains, so to
small.
speak,
Yes.
3 pounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's remarkable also what I admired her so much in her is her humbleness towards music. The way she makes music is just extraordinary.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
that.
a religion. You know, she
Yes.
really believes in it, and
And she is very religious, isn't
very
she?
religious.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, you have this paragraph here.
Yes.
Why don't you read that? Because that's interesting.
woman,
Yes,
yeah.
a religious woman, she wanted to record on Saint Cecilia's Day, the patron saint of musicians. She considers her musicality a gift from God, adding, "I even thought that God did not like my music very much because he gave me so many difficulties to realize it, but he is always merciful."
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's very touching. Yes.
Well, obviously, this is an artist who has meant a lot in Brazil, even if she hasn't played that much. Her presence seems to mean something to people who love the piano.
Yes, yes. She is highly regarded by connoisseurs of piano playing.
Yes.
You know.
And how did you come to her in your life that you yourself made it happen, probably, that she came to New York
Yes,
to record?
well, I met her many years ago. I was still a student, and I performed in São Paulo. She went to my recital, and then she asked to be introduced to me. And it was very complimentary. It was very nice. And I was very flattered that she came. I didn't know much about her then. And you know, this was this tiny lady, that very frail looking, that very nice, and that's it. So afterwards, I came to New York. I have been living here for 16 years, and then I think it was in '79, I was in São Paulo, and some friends asked me if I wanted to hear Menininha Lobo. I asked them, does she still play? So, oh, yes, and very well. So, well, let's go. So we went an evening to her house, and she sat down and played like a god. It was wonderful, wonderful. And I immediately realized that this was an important artist that had to be documented. So I went to the record company, and I spoke to the director, and I explained the situation. They gave me carte blanche, and I brought her to New York and made 4 records. And that's it. And
wonderful.
yes, she's very ill now, and if she gets better, I might bring her again.
And she's now 81.
Yeah, she's 80 now. She's going to be 81 in September.
Now, when she got to New York, was this her first visit here?
Yes, it was. She had been
what
to
was
Europe
it like
before.
for her?
Well, she is totally into her own world, and she didn't want to visit anything. She was thinking, she went to Steinway to try the pianos and all that, and was concerned about the recordings, and talking about music all the time. I took her sightseeing one day. She didn't even look out the car.
She didn't care that she was in the basement where Rachmaninoff had played?
No, she just was interested in the music itself, and talking about the past and talking about music. That's what it was.
Does she live in the past? Is the past more vital to her than the present?
No, I think that in some way she lives in the past.
Has she ever said anything about life in Brazil early in the century?
Oh yes,
yes.
It was very different. It was very different. This is a woman that was always overprotected. She comes from a very important family that of politicians and musicians, and in Campinas the family is well known. It's an old family that has been there since the beginning of Brazil, and so they are very well known. And she was always protected by the family. Never married, never had a man in her life. She was going to be a nun, but then her father wanted that, and she said that she wanted her life. She wanted music for her life, so the family allowed her to be a musician, and she played the piano all her life. And there's a very funny story that she told me once, that she went to a ball with her brothers. And she was not enjoying herself. She fell asleep, and they left the ball. And then once they got home, they realized that she was not with them. So they went back, and that she was still asleep in the box.
Oh, that is charming. Well, she seems to be a totally natural being.
Yes.
Just herself.
Yes.
No pretension, obviously.
Yes, totally natural. Very, very.
Does she practice
yes.
a lot?
Not a lot, but she does practice, and she practices very well. I heard her practicing in my apartment. She practices. She has to practice very slowly and hands separate, because her right arm will get tired, and then she will practice only the left arm. There are certain days that are negative days,
she says it's a negative day.
It's a negative day, so she won't touch the piano.
And she, how does she know that? It's.
She feels it.
She feels
it, and she won't touch the piano in those days. And she will practice very slowly, and it's beautiful to hear her practice, because you will hear a left hand that is just gorgeously played. Every voice, the lines, it breathes, and she phrases the left hand the same way that she phrases the right hand.
We heard in the foray this breathing, which
yes.
is. I've heard some of these recordings before, and it's a characteristic of her playing, this aristocratic
yes.
quality, the beautiful sound.
Gorgeous tone. Yes.
She takes her time.
Yes.
She's not going to be hurried. And yes, gorgeous tone. And this aristocratic bearing and the breathing. This is a kind of piano playing, of course, which is certainly not fashionable and not... and it's dying out, really.
Yes.
So we're hearing the exponent of a great school, which you're a part of. William Daghlian is my guest, and Sonia Rubinsky. And did I say Sophia?
Yes.
Sonia.
Yes,
I like the name Sophia, but I like Sonia too. And I should know by now your name, but I don't even know mine half the time. So you also knew her in Brazil, right? You
Yes, I met her in Brazil. I had friends that knew her personally, and always told me you should meet her and you should play for her. And so
What did she
forth.
say about your playing?
She loved it.
She loved it.
She said this girl will go far.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
That's what she said.
Well, that is true. You are going far. You've just come back from Paris, where you played a recital.
Yes.
Tell me a little about that. I want to, as long as you're here, I want to also talk to you.
Well, I played a recital at the Maison de l'Europe.
Mm-hmm.
An hour and 15 minutes program, solo recital, and this was last week.
Mm-hmm.
And it went very well.
What did you play?
I played Haydn Sonata, E flat major, and a piece by Michel Philippot, a sonata by Michel Philippot, and Liszt au bord d'une source.
Now, is Filippo a Brazilian
No,
composer?
he's
Who
French.
is French?
Yes, he teaches at the Paris Conservatoire.
And how did you get to that work?
Well, actually, he is married to Anastela Chic, who is a Brazilian pianist.
Yes,
Yes.
I once met her long
Oh, you
ago.
did?
Yes, she gave me a recording.
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh.
So through her and through William,
Ah,
I got to this work, and then I ended with the Rudi Poema, the Villa Lobos.
well, that's
work.
one of your specialties.
Yes.
I've heard you play it at least 4 times. Sonia Rubinsky is a fantastic pianist who is making a wonderful career, and indeed she'll be playing at Carnegie Recital Hall November 17th. And if you really want to hear an incredible canvas, it is her performance of Villa Lobos Ruda Poma. Well, there's a little similarity between Menininha Lobo and Lobos, but I don't think
But
that-
they are not related.
yeah, I don't think she cared, one way or another. Sonia, you so you played for her, and you also got this impression of this extraordinarily fragile woman.
Yes.
Yeah,
Also, what amazed me in her playing is the voicing.
yeah,
That she hears so absolutely everything she's playing,
yeah.
and she's with every, for instance, in the Bach Chromatic Fantasy, which we'll hear later.
Mm-hmm.
Every voice and every harmony, everything is felt so deeply.
Yeah. Well, we're going to hear now her performance of the Myra Hess arrangement of Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring, and we will hear that ability that she has to communicate music without doubt. The artist, Menininha Lobo. You have just heard Menininha Lobo in a performance of Bach's Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring, Myra Hess transcription, which Hess made so famous, and then Lapati continued making it famous. And we have really heard from a pianist not known in New York, but one that is very well loved by my guests, Sonia Rubinsky and William Daghlian. William, tell us a little about you. We've talked a little bit about what Sonia's doing. Tell me what you are after in your career, which is as a piano teacher.
Yes, I am teaching for many years already here in New York, and I have people that are performing a lot, and some composers, some people playing new music, people playing old music. And sometimes I take my pupils to Brazil to perform there. I have taken 2 pupils already for tours. And I bring Brazilian musicians to New York also to make records. You know,
and as you did
as I did with Menininha Lobo, and I also brought Cláudio de Brito, who's another Brazilian pianist, fine musician also. And in the future, I intend to make some records with Sonia Rubinsky also.
That would be a wonderful idea, Sonia.
Yes,
and you'll play the Rudapoma.
Yes,
yes.
And
I would like to.
I heard your list, which was beautiful, and now that's, I think, an idea really well worth pursuing. And it's rare that's why I asked you before how you came up to this contemporary sonata. It's rare that a young pianist is interested in contemporary music. It's almost a shame, because there's really quite a piano literature of this century, which is just not explored, and a great deal of South American piano music.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's a closed book, and that's a pity.
Well, you heard the Rudy poema, and it's not known at all, and it's not played. It's often thought of as a piece which is too difficult, doesn't make sense, and I don't think that at all. I think it's very beautiful. It holds very well together.
Very well, at
Yes.
least when you play it, because you've thought deeply about it.
Yes, but it works. The piece works.
I want to spell for our listening audience the name Menininha, which of course I'm probably not pronouncing well, and it's Meninha.
Yes.
And that really translates again to what?
Little girl.
Little girl. In the Brazilian language, which is the Portuguese language.
Yes.
Well,
And Lobo means wolf.
aha,
Yes.
little girl wolf. Well, well, I think every pianist, as you both will attest, has to have a little of the wolf, or at least the lion,
Of course.
in them to continue.
That you hear in the chromatic fantasy.
And that is exactly what we're going to hear. It's one of Sonia's favorite performances
Oh, yes.
by Lobo, and we are now going to hear this recording, which is on the label Estudio Eldorado, which is a Brazilian label, and it's distributed by EMI. Is that it?
Yes.
And it's not, well, there's 4 of these albums you have made, William, right?
Yes,
With her.
4.
So she was here for, a few months?
Yeah, she was here for, she came twice.
But they're hard to get here, aren't they?
Yes, it's virtually impossible to get them here. You know.
Well, most of our audience flies to Brazil every weekend.
Yes, that would be nice.
So
They can buy it there.
They can certainly buy
Yes.
your productions there.
Yes.
Let's hear Menininha Lobo. Say it properly, Sonia.
Menininha Lobo.
In the chromatic fantasy and fugue by Bach himself. You have just heard Menininha Lobo in the Chromatic Fantasy and Fugue by Bach, and we will be back with more discussion about the art of this Brazilian pianist. William, pronounce it properly because I'm so bad at these things.
Menininha Lobo.
Menininha Lobo. How was that, Sonia?
That was very good.
Well, I'll forget after the commercial, but my intentions are good. This is David Dubal and my guests, Sonia Rubinsky, pianist, and William Daghlian, pianist, and a well-known teacher in New York who was the producer of the albums we are hearing by the Brazilian artist, pianist Menininha Lobo. And, well, I think we've painted a little portrait of her, William.
Yes.
This frail woman who continues to play, who is a legend in Brazil. We have brought her, so to speak, to New York for this evening, and I wish everyone could hear all of the recordings. What are some of the repertoire that you have done here?
Well, we have a side that is all Chopin.
Mm-hmm.
We have with nocturnes, impromptus, and then we have Frank Bauer. Transcription and Strauss Pfeiffer. This is a gorgeous piece.
Yes.
Also. Too bad we don't have time to play that.
We will in another program, perhaps. Was she temperamental in recording these?
No.
She just went in and did
she just went in
and
it was not difficult because she's very frail. She doesn't have the stamina to play for too long.
Mm-hmm.
So she would play once or twice each piece and then rest a little bit and then go on like that.
I see.
And just lovely. And
Well,
she prayed before every session.
Uh-huh.
Yes, it was lovely to see that.
Oh, that is charming indeed.
Yes.
We will hear her in what? What did we decide that we are going to do?
Debussy from
The Serenade, The Snow is Dancing.
And then Golliwogs, right?
Great. Let's hear The Snow is Dancing, and we'll come back and hear Gollywog, Cakewalk. No, we'll hear both together. from that marvelous work, Children's Corner, which was once premiered in 1906, I think, by Harold Bauer. We have the Brazilian pianist Menininha Lobo on a recording by the company Estudio Eldorado. My guests who have brought these recordings to me are William Daghlian and Sonia Rubinsky. Now, we have 1 second to really conclude. Sonia, tell me something about her or about yourself. You have a choice.
No, I prefer to talk about her. Well, for me, she represents a tradition that is going to be lost almost, and I'm very thankful to William, actually, that he did those records so we all can hear it. And I hear them and I learn from them a great deal.
Well, I know that you loved this playing.
Yes,
I
really
absolutely
do.
know that. And so do you, William Daghlian.
Yes,
I wish you...
We try to emulate this. We try to emulate this.
Well, so your teaching carries on this tradition that goes back to her teacher.
Chiavarelli.
And I wish you both well in your careers.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing Menininha Lobo to us. And it was good seeing you. And this is David Dubal. Thank you for listening.